Ultra Age is a new game that is an indie take inspired by the Platinum action games. The best aspect about the game is the combat. The swordplay feels good and it's always satisfying to take someone out. The combat even has some nice touches like moments of different camera movements and slow motion to heighten the action on screen. At the same time, Ultra Age does have a decent amount of flaws that hold the game back in some ways. The story isn't really that interesting, but the voice acting hits a quality of being so bad it's good. Honestly, this area could actually be a positive since you're probably going to be laughing at many of the cutscenes. What hurts the flow of the game the most are how there are many difficulty spikes either through the boss fights or regular fights. It can feel a bit all over the place rather than an escalation of the action. Even with these issues, the combat still remains enjoyable throughout, and this is what holds the game together. Ultra Age is an action game with satisfying combat. When it comes to your moveset, you have a quick and heavy attack. You can mix and match these to perform different combos. You also have access to a wire that you can either use to pull an enemy towards you or be pulled towards them. This can be really useful in the middle of a fight to get out of a tough situation and pull yourself towards an enemy that is far away. For defense, you have your dodge. If you can hit this right before an enemy attacks you, you will quickly sidestep an attack and can go into a quick counterattack. The basic combat is enjoyable and has you unleashing different sword combos along with trying to learn the enemy patterns to appropriately dodge their attacks. It can be really satisfying to learn your enemy's attacks and then be able to complete an encounter without ever being hit. There's some nice touches provided within the combat areas. As you are attacking enemies, different moves and combos will cause the game to slow down or cause the camera to zoom in, and this allows much of the action to have this dynamic presentation to it. It is an extra touch that adds some style to the presentation of the action, and it's better for it. Ultra Age does go a bit deeper with its combat. Much of the fighting is built off the different blades that you can equip and use. For example, you have access to a few different blades and you will find more as you progress. You have your base level one better for taking out organic enemies and another that's better for taking on robots. During a fight, you can switch between these blades to combat the weaknesses of your enemies. Some of the fights make it even more interesting by throwing in both robotic and organic enemies at you, encouraging you to change up your blades. You can opt to not take advantage of the system, but learning which blades to use will make the game a lot easier. Another thing to keep in mind is how you need to extract blades from sources in the environment. As you attack enemies, your blade will slowly break, but you can use this to your advantage. Once it is close to breaking, you can choose to break it by unleashing a more powerful hit, and this will usually hit more than one enemy at once. Also, learning the weaknesses of your enemies can allow you to pull off another devastating attack. For example, if you are using the katana on an organic enemy, this will decrease their resistance bar. Once this is gone, you can pull off this attack on them, and in most cases it will kill them instantly. This can be really useful to learn and use with some of the tougher foes. Some enemies later on will have shields, and you can use whichever sword you want on them, but if you opt to use the lightning sword on them, you can destroy the shield in just a few hits while also stunning the enemy. Switching on the fly is really easy, which fits in with the game wanting you to use the best blade for the job. The different blades, enemy types, and related attacks with them adds another layer to the combat that makes it even more enjoyable and fun to master. As you defeat enemies, you will build up energy. You can use this as a means to heal yourself, and it also refills your overcharge mode. In this mode, you can do a lot more damage, and if you have it upgraded, it will be another means for you to earn back some health. As you defeat enemies, you will earn money that you can use to upgrade your blades along with other abilities. You can improve your base damage with them, critical hit chance, along with adding more combos to your moveset. You will also find power cores which will allow you to enhance other areas, like how many modules you can have equipped, among other things. I enjoyed the upgrades, they were simple and good. One thing to note is how the beginning of this game is very stop and go. You really do not get a nice piece of meaningful gameplay until the second area. This honestly wouldn't really be a problem if the story and voice acting was good, but it isn't, and we'll get more into that soon. While the first area does not make the best first impression, the second area does make up for this. This is where you are introduced to all the main elements of the gameplay, and the story is mostly in the background as you are focusing on the action and learning the systems. While this area is very linear, the second part of this area has you in an underground dungeon. There is some appreciated exploration here with side rooms to complete. It is limited in its exploration, but what is here is pretty good. Boss fights are another big area in this game. These were generally fun encounters, but they're also areas for frustration. The first boss fight was not that interesting since it was just a bigger version of an enemy you fought before with some new attacks. The second boss felt like a pretty good traditional boss encounter. Focus on the weak points and then you can actually damage its health. There's even some fun change-ups in the fight, like fog coming in later making it harder to see his attacks, along with needing to contend with smaller enemies. There are some other mini boss fights that are fun, but they often repeat themselves just in different locations. The bosses are generally a mix of fun and annoying at times. Another example is where you need to fight a machine. In between rounds, when you cannot damage it, it will send out a lot of traps and objects to hit you. This can feel really unbalanced later in this fight, making it feel like it's impossible to dodge everything. Some of the traps that the boss uses can take out most of your health and kill you really fast, making it really hard to react to any of the attacks, meaning that you will probably die and need to do the entire fight over again. I appreciated what some of the boss fights were trying to do, but they felt like they needed better balancing. Along with this, the story was not that engaging and the voice acting was not good. In many cases, it came across as unintentionally funny, and is so bad that it's good. I found myself laughing a lot whenever the main character spoke. While this is definitely a flaw, it's also an odd plus because of the entertainment value you're gonna get out of it.
Looks like even machines don't stand the test of time. It's incredibly old. I'm getting a bad feeling. Elvis is avoiding my question. Huh? Me? Why? Why must everything be so complicated?
When it comes to other flaws in the game, there is the rewind ability that essentially lets you reset an area with the enemies there and the blades that you can pick up. This seems like an odd ability and a bit of a missed opportunity to not incorporate it in some way in the combat itself. While I touched on this before, the biggest problem with this game are the difficulty spikes. While you are completing an area, sometimes there will be one or two enemies that will just take you out really quick, and it feels like it came out of nowhere. The same goes for some of the boss encounters. Some feel fair, others don't. Essentially, the game feels a bit all over the place when it comes to the difficulty, and there are no difficulty options, so you cannot change this. Along with this, you cannot control the camera, and in some cases this can cause you to take a lot of unneeded damage if an enemy pins you up against a wall. I also found it odd that you could equip modules to improve your stats like health and armor, but you could only equip one of the same type. This felt like a missed opportunity to not let you equip whatever you wanted to, allowing for some more player expression in what you chose to equip. One last thing that I want to bring up that I found to be annoying was a conveyor belt section where you need to use your charge sword to defeat enemies to build up a charge, and then use that charge on walls coming at you. The problem is that the walls move pretty fast and can cause you to be in this never-ending loop of defeating enemies, destroying walls, and then getting pushed back. Ultra Age does have a lot of aspects that need a bit more refinement and can be a bit annoying, but the combat is really good and what I enjoyed most about this title. Ultra Age is a flawed but fun game. It has many big and small areas that will probably annoy the player, and ultimately distract them from the good combat. The game needs better balancing when it comes to the inconsistent difficulty spikes that can hurt the motivation to continue, or sections that are just outright annoying. On the other hand, when the game is focused on the combat, it's generally really good. I enjoyed playing around with the blade system and defeating the variety of different enemies. The upgrades mean that you are expanding your moveset and bettering your power along with the combat, allowing for many instances to improve your player's skill by learning the enemy's moves and dodging appropriately. Ultra Age is a game that I would recommend that you check out when it's on sale. Thank you very much for watching.